Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my October 2025 reading vlog. So far we are about 4 days into the month and I have already started 3 books. Now the book that I'm reading for my 100 Epic Reads of a Lifetime book poster is Cutting for Stone by Abraham Verghese. This is a story about 2 brothers, and one of the brothers is a doctor, and he is trying to figure out the life of his estranged parents. His parents were both doctors who ended up getting together, and the mother died in childbirth, and the dad disowned the 2 babies because they were attached by the head. So this is a weird story. It's jumping around different perspectives, but it is essentially the main character, one of the sons, trying to figure out what happened prior to his birth and as a result of it. And it is very medical, it is very doctor focused, and so far it is not to my liking. There is nothing special about this that I am particularly enjoying. And I actually have never heard of the book, and I don't know why it's on the poster. So that is my update on that. I am 100 and something pages into it. Next I am reading Slewfoot, A Tale of Bewitchery by Brom, which was a previously independently published novel about a young girl in the 1660s, and she loses her husband and she is now struggling to keep their family property away from the older brother who is seeking out to gain access and control of the property and her again. Meanwhile, there is some scary forest demon that everyone thinks is the devil, slowly waking up and slowly realizing his purpose, and the pair of them converge eventually. I am 1/3 of the way into the novel, so far I don't know how the 2 characters are going to converge, but I think this is a very excellent story, showing the lack of independence for a woman in this time period. It is an excellent depiction of the change to Puritanism when they moved into the New World, because she was originally from London, and yes, there was some religious stuff going on there, but now she is in the New World. Intense Puritanism and just horrible treatment of women. And it is something that is quite fascinating for this character to be going through. I think it is pretty accurate as well. A lot of the language is very of the time, although there is a lot of universal wording for things. I'm not really keeping up with all of the historical details for accuracy because this book isn't pissing me off. So I think this is a very good book so far, and I'm eager to see how Slewfoot, the little demon devil guy, is going to converge with this character's story. So cool Halloween spooky evil story for the month. And my 3rd book, I am listening to the audiobook of Dead in the Family by Charlaine Harris, which is the 10th book in the Sookie Stackhouse novels. I typically read one a year in October. I listen to the audiobook. It's a good, fun story just to listen to. I really like the narrator's southern accent. I like hearing Sookie rather than reading her on the page. And so far it is standard in the series. It is a lot based on the previous books, so there's not really one mystery that we're following. It is sort of a follow-up to everything else going on, so there's not much to talk about plot-wise, but I do enjoy these characters, following them, and I am, excited to see what happens next. And of course, I liked the show, so that's why I'm really, really trying to get through all of the books, and I am enjoying it so far. I am 51% of the way through that now because the books are fairly short on audio. As for the rest of the month, I have a few Batman comics, particular ones that I am looking forward to, so stay tuned for that. And after I finish these novels, who knows what else I will get into in the sort of October-y books. So stay tuned for that. are now halfway through the month, so I thought that I would do a little bit of a reading update for you. I am down to the last quarter of Cutting for Stone by Abraham Verghese, and this has been a complete chore to read. I don't like it at all. I don't see the purpose of it being on the poster, but of course I will talk more about that in the vlog dedicated to the poster. I have finished Slewfoot, A Tale of Bewitchery by Brom, which I'm giving about 3.5 stars. I did really enjoy the character arc that Abatha went through with losing her husband, and then her brother-in-law struggling to take her property away, and then the entire village trying to accuse her of witchcraft, and her eventually, growing into herself and who she needs to be by the end of the story. And I did not mind the walking goat monsters character. I liked the little minions that have followed him around with the kids' faces. Those guys were pretty, nasty little gremlins, and I liked a little bit of what was going on there. However, I thought that those two characters, the Goat Man and Abatha, should have been romantically involved, and they just weren't, because the themes of the novel were sort of leading up to that, and I thought that they were going to have a romance, or at least, a few entanglements, and they did not end up doing that. So that was really odd for me, because I thought that was exactly where the story was going, and I would not have been mad at that, because it was just what the themes were, what the plot was heading towards, and it just never did. So I thought that that was an odd choice, but otherwise it is a pretty solid little fairy tale, and I liked it. I then read DC vs. Vampires All Out War Part 1 and Part 2 by Matthew Rosenberg and other collaborators. These both got 1 star because the idea is neat, the idea of showing sort of the in-between stories that happened over the course of the original DC vs. Vampire story. However, there are too many characters in here, there are too many characters that I don't care about, and there is just so much plot going on that I could not follow a single thing. There were a few elements in here that I enjoyed. I liked Damien sort of doing a sort of double cross between Dick and the other characters, since he is a vampire himself. He was pretending to kill all of the heroes who were still human, or not, at least not a vampire, and then he would go to the sort of vampire coalition and pretend to be with them. So I liked the idea of Damien being the ultimate double crosser there, and I liked the idea of Constantine constantly astral projecting, so no one could kill his human body and no one could really attack him and turn him into a vampire. That was cool. Otherwise, everything in here sucked. No pun intended, I guess. Ha 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 ha. But I'm sorry, this is the most out of character thing, especially for Deathstroke. They have him saying, as Mama Rue used to say, don't fuck it up. Why in the world would Slade know about RuPaul's Drag Race? And I don't even mean that as a funny little haha. I mean that genuinely, what? So yeah, these sucked. I hated them. I didn't like reading them at all, which is a shame because I actually liked DC vs. Vampires. This just seemed like cheap ideas and bad leftovers. So for the rest of my month, I have to finish Cutting for Stone, and I'm going to be reading more Batman comics, hopefully, and after that, who knows, maybe I will read another novel in between as well. So stay tuned. Okay, just doing another in-between mini update here because it's been a few days where I've been very busy and I haven't really been able to update on what's going on. As for the comics that I've read, I have finished the rest of the Batman Vampire Saga by Doug Moench and Kelley Jones. I read Batman Bloodstorm and Batman Crimson Mist, which are the other 2 stories in the Elseworld tale where Bruce Wayne becomes a vampire. I gave both of these 4 stars because I thought they were such excellent concepts. The first one is Batman struggling not to drink blood while he is trying to, stay his usual self as Batman, but in the end he ends up succumbing and his first victim is the Joker. Therefore, the only blood he's ever had is evil blood. Therefore, he's an evil vampire now, and it's up to Jim Gordon and Alfred to stop him. And for the second comic that I read out of here, it is Batman struggling with his own evilness as he eats all of the villains in Gotham and has to be defeated in the end by his human friends. So just cool, interesting stuff in here. I really loved the art style in here, as I've already said, and I had a lot more fun with this comic than I did with DC vs. Vampires All Out War. As for the novel that I'm reading, I'm currently listening to 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, which is, of course, another book on this poster, because it is the end of the year madness where I have to read 2 books in 1 month in order to accommodate my posting schedule, because I don't post the last vlog in December, I posted in November. So that is the last time I'm going to be doing that, obviously, but yeah, that is the novel I have decided to read for the end of the month. Thankfully, it is much better in ear as an audiobook, and I will let you know my ideas in that vlog dedicated to it. But for those who want to know, it is the story of 7 generations of a family, and it is very magical realism, and it is about how all of the family don't fit in society or with each other, and all of the crazy antics that they go through. Like, for example, one character eats dirt, and another character wastes his whole life making these little gold fish, and he never ends up making any money out of it because the money he makes goes back into the fish. So it's just like a metaphor for all of that. So a lot of wacky stuff going on, but it is pretty interesting to hear as a little kind of magical realism fairy tale. So I haven't been hating it so far. Stay tuned for my wrap-up at the end of the month where I lay down everything that I've read. So stay tuned. Okay, so here we are at the final wrap-up of the month. This month I managed to read 8 books. Now, the first book that I read was off of my 100 Epic Reads of a Lifetime poster, and that was Cutting for Stone by Abraham Verghese, which I gave only 1 or 2 stars. I honestly can't remember, because there is not a lot about this book that I can remember, nor do I want to. It was a really, really dull, boring thing, and I didn't really gain anything substantial from reading this. It was just the obligation on my poster, and I am glad that it's over and I can now get rid of this copy. Next, I listened to the audiobook of Dead in the Family by Charlaine Harris, which I believe is the 10th book in the True Blood Sookie Stackhouse Southern Mystery novels, and I gave that one its standard 3-star. I always enjoy listening to that audiobook around the Halloween season, and of course this book was no different. It simply continued all of the plots going on in the previous parts of the series, and I enjoyed it very much. Next, I read Slewfoot, A Tale of Bewitchery by Brom, which I ended up giving it 3 stars. I enjoyed a lot of aspects of this novel. However, I did have issues with it that I discussed earlier, but those issues aren't just unique to my reading experience. I've seen a lot of reviews also bring up the topic of why didn't the main character get with the goat man. So once again, I did enjoy this book. I think it was a perfect book to read for the October Halloween season, especially if you are in the midst of a kind of rainy situation like I was. I really, really enjoyed reading this and I would recommend it. However, I just wish that it had gone fully that far. It would have been a very interesting story as a result. Next, I read DC vs. Vampires All Out War Part 1. and Part 2 by Matthew Rosenberg and other collaborators. These both got 1 star from me. They are just a muddy mess filled with characters I don't care about, plus the characters that I did care about, I felt that they were just poorly misused and miswritten. It was incredibly out of character, like I said, for Deathstroke to reference RuPaul. And I just think that this was a book that had a lot of ideas it wanted to throw on the table, but they didn't put them into their proper piles to make for a good story. So it was just a bunch of messy crap on the table that you were meant to sift through yourself, and it was not worth it to enjoy the previous books in the series for DC versus vampires. So I don't know. I didn't like them. Next, I read the final 2 Elseworld Batman Vampire comics, Batman Bloodstorm and Batman Crimson Mist by Doug Moench and Kelley Jones. Those both got 4 stars. Meanwhile, I thought these stories, which got into the what if Batman had become a vampire stories, were very, very interesting. Both of the stories did different things with the ideas, discussed a lot of different themes and relationships and possibilities and inner struggles. And of course, the art in here is just so cool. It's so pulpy, it's so comic booky, so violent, and so gothy, and I really, really enjoyed these comics as a result. Like, look at my poor Batman. Look at him, he's suffering, he hates this. I really, really enjoyed these comics, and I am glad that I read them for Halloween. And the final book that I read for the month, which I am not completely finished yet, is 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I am listening to the audiobook, and I have about 3.5 hours left of that. I'm reading it, of course, off of my 100 Epic Reads of a Lifetime poster in order to fit the format in which I publish the videos. And so far, I am liking listening to Gabriel Garcia Marquez a lot better than I did reading him on page, because he is such a magical realism author, such a going from one generation of a family to another, and they're all named the same thing essentially. It is much easier to hear it in ear because it sounds like someone just telling you a story and going off tangent, and it flows a lot better than it does when you are reading it on the page and you're like, wait, which Accardio are we talking about? Which Jose Arcadio Buendia? Which Ursula? Which, you know, Aureliano? Like, all of those names confused, and you have to keep track of everything. So it's nicer to hear in ear where everything is laid out a lot more comfortably for you. And so far I have been enjoying it. However, it is not my new favorite book of all time. I believe it will be getting a 3-star for me, but we will see at the end and in that subsequent vlog. So that is it. That was my month of October. I really, really enjoyed this time of year, and I'm always very disappointed when it's over because everyone just seems to push all of the fun, harvesty kind of autumn stuff out of the way in favor of just Christmas, which I am not a fan of. With all of the Christmas stuff comes a lot of people's stress, anger, and panic, and I hate this time of year. That mixed with the oncoming snowy weather, I'm not looking forward to it. So now I am just wishing for a nice, quiet, and calm end to the year, as I always do. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.